Hello, this is Dr. Mears, and today we are going to be solving quadratic equations using the factoring method. Here are a few notes about solving quadratic equations. First, when we solve quadratic equations, we're actually finding the x-intercepts. So we're finding where it crosses the x-axis. So there's x and here's y. So we're finding on this axis right here, where is it crossing? Number two, the x-intercepts can be called a couple different things. You might have directions say, find the solutions. You might have directions say, what are the roots? Or you might have the directions say, what are the zeros? Even in our calculator, when we are looking for the x-intercepts, we have to select the one that says zeros. So there's three different names that all relate to the same thing, and that's finding where our parabola crosses the x-axis. So here are a few examples. Number one, x squared plus 5x plus 6. So what we need to do is we need to factor this. So we need to find two numbers that add to 5 and multiply to 6. And when we do this, we need to start with the multiplication first. We need to think of two numbers that we can get to multiply to 6. So we have 1 and 6, we have 2 and 3. Now, we also have to get to 5 when we add these. And notice they are all positive. So I know when I add 1 plus 6, I'm going to get 7. When I add 2 plus 3, I'm going to get 5. So that should tell you right there, it's going to be 2 and 3. So 2 and 3 work. They're both positive. So what I'm going to do is set up my parentheses, equals 0, x and x. It's going to be a positive 2 and it's going to be a positive 3. So now I've factored. The reason why I need to factor is because I need to solve. When we solve, we need to find out what the value of x is. We need to find out what it is. Please notice this is set equal to 0. This has to be set equal to 0 for us to use this method, because what we're going to be doing is we are going to be splitting these two up. Because they are linked by multiplication, we can split x plus 2 and set it equal to 0, and we can take apart x plus 3 and set it equal to 0. So we can split those up. This is going to allow us to solve to get our x-intercepts. So minus 2 inverse operations, x equals negative 2, minus 3 inverse operations, x equals negative 3. So our x-intercepts, if we were to graph this, we don't even need to know, where, we don't know, that was a mistake. We now know where it's going to cross, which is going to be at not negative 1 mirrors, at negative 2 and negative 3. So if we were to graph this, we know that the parabola crosses there. We also know, since this is positive 1 here, that it's going to go up. Remember, A is 1, it goes up. So we know what it looks like. We can draw a sketch of this just based upon our x-intercepts. And you know I do like to write these in point form. So our intercepts are negative 2, 0 and negative 3, 0. And from here, we actually have been looking at intercept form in our studies. And you say, oh, wait a minute, when we take that 2 out, it's actually its opposite. And yes, you are absolutely right. But the reason why it's the opposite is because of this process here. And this process is actually called the zero product property. Zero product property. And people may have heard that along the way in math, and this is what it is. Okay, so a couple things here. First, it's set equal to 0. We factored it, we're able to split them, and we found the x-intercepts. For number 2, x squared minus 4x equals negative 3. Is this set equal to 0? And you say no. So I want to bring my minus 3 over to the other side of the equal sign. So I'm going to do plus 3. So I'm going to get x squared minus 4x plus 3 equals 0. So now that I'm set equal to 0, I can go through this process again of factoring and then solving. And so notice if it's on this side, the right side of the equation, and it's negative 3, and it jumps over, it now is on the left side, right side, negative 3, left side, it is positive 3. So now we can go through and factor. So I need to add to a -4, and I need to multiply to a +3. And so we're going to use -1 and -3. Now, how do I think of these numbers? I've done these a lot, and it takes practice to come up with these numbers right away. Because -1 times -3 does give us that +3, and -1 plus a -3 gives us a -4, and that's what we needed. So if you're not good at this, it just takes practice. That's what it takes, lots and lots of practice. So let's set our parentheses up. X and X, I know it's going to be a -1, -1, and a -3. I can now split these up. X minus 1 equals 0, X minus 3 equals 0. Add 1 to both sides, I get X equals 1. Add 3 to both sides, I get X equals 3. So my X-intercepts are going to be 1, 0. Let's just label that 1, 0, and 3, 0. And over here, even if you want to label this X-I-N-T-E. Oh, I'm spelling this all wrong today. Bear with me. There we go. Okay. So let's keep going. The next one, number 3, x squared equals 8x minus 12. Again, we need to set this equal to 0, so we need to bring things over to the other side. So let's bring this 8x. It's positive, so we're going to use -8x to both sides. So it's x squared minus 8x equals -12. I have to get that minus 12 over, so it's going to be its opposite, plus 12 plus 12. So we have x squared minus 8x plus 12 equals 0. Now that it's set equal to 0, I can go through this process again. I'm going to have to factor. I'm going to have to add up to a -8 and multiply to a +12. And so the two numbers that are going to give us that is -6 and -2. Again, if you need practice with that, then you should practice. Ask me for some sheets, and I will give you some sheets to practice. So our factors are x minus 6 and x minus 2. Then we can split them. I'm just going to go right over here. X minus 6 equals 0, x minus 2 equals 0, and then add 6 to both sides. X equals 6, so that's the 0.60. Add 2 to both sides. X equals 2, so that's the 0.20, and now we have our x-intercepts. Yay! So moving things over from one side to the other so that we can get it set equal to 0, so that we can factor, so that we can use the zero product property and find our x-intercepts. Next, number 4. So you might see it set up as f of x equals x squared plus x minus 42, and I may say find the x-intercepts or find the solutions. So what you do is you can take out f of x and substitute in 0. And now we're ready to go. It's okay that 0 is on this side. We still factor this, so we still have to find what adds up to +1. Remember, this is a 1 if there's no number, and what multiplies to 42. Now, here's the thing, -42, my bad. Here's the thing, -42, because it has to add up to 1, we know these factors have to be very close together because when we add them or subtract them, we have to get to a +1. So I'm going to let you know this is going to be -6 and a +7. -6 times 7 is going to be -42, and -6 plus 7 is going to give us a +1. So you might need to play around with your signs here. Again, this is not a lesson in factoring, it's a lesson in how to find the x-intercepts. So I'm going to move on. So 0 equals x minus 6, x plus 7, because we had -6 and +7. Then I can separate them. X minus 6 equals 0, and x plus 7 equals 0. Add 6 to both sides. X equals 6, so we have the 0.60. Subtract 7 from both sides. X equals -7, so we have the -7 and those are our x-intercepts. Yay! Okay. Next, number 5 looks a little different. What are we missing? Yes, we are missing that x term. There's no middle term there. So if you're missing that term, you can put in a 0x because anything times 0 is 0. So if we put in a 0x, now we know that we need to we need to add to 0 and we need to multiply to a negative 121. Let's think about this. They're going to have to be the same number, everybody. Okay? If we're going to add a 0, they're going to have to be the same number, and they're going to have different signs. So I'm thinking negative 11 and positive 11. When we add negative 11 and positive 11, we get 0. When we multiply, we get negative 121. So we have negative x minus 11, x plus 11 equals 0. So again, we input that 0x because we had that term missing. So let's split these. X minus 11 equals 0. X plus 11 equals 0. Adding 11, x equals 11. So we have 11, 0, and minus 11. X equals negative 11, so negative 11, 0, and we have our x-intercepts. Yay! And if you jump from here to here, just be careful of your signs. That's all. Some people can just see it. They're like, oh, it's 6 and 7, 6 and negative 7. So you might want to jump that step. That's okay if you get really good at these. Just be careful that you write down the correct signs. That's where young mathematicians get caught up. Okay, 2 more. Number 6. So this is one where I would say, hey, pause this video, see if you can do it, come back and check your answer. So I am going to say, let's setting them up. We need to add to 10, multiply to 25. The two numbers are going to be 5, positive 5, and positive 5. So x plus 5 equals 0, and x plus 5 equals 0. So x equals negative 5, and x equals negative 5. Negative 5, 0, and negative 5, 0. So if you paused, welcome back. Here are your 2 answers. Now, this is important. Please note, these are the same. Yes, these are the same. So what the graph, this is a positive 1, what the graph actually is going to look like, 5, 5, x, y. It's actually going to be sitting, I like to say sitting on the x-axis. So this is a double root. So when you have a double root like this, you only have to write it down once. You can just say double root at negative 5, 0. Here it crosses twice, 11, negative 11. Here it crosses twice, 6 and negative 7. Here, only once because they are the same, so that's what it's going to look like. It could even go downwards. I'm not going to draw that. I don't want to confuse you right now, but we're actually going to be looking at this a little bit more. That's why I did this example. All right, and our last one that we have here, notice we don't have any x squares, but we have some parentheses. Everybody, we need to get it to look like this. So we're going to have to do a little extra math work for this one. We're going to have to get rid of these parentheses. So how do we do that? Thank you. Yes, we have to distribute. So here when we distribute, x times x is x squared. X times positive 8 is positive 8x equals. Here we have to distribute. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times 2 is positive 10. Again, we have to get it to look like this where 0 is on one side. So let's move some things over. First, I can move my 5x. So it's positive. I'm going to subtract it. Is there a like term over here? Yes. So I can subtract it from my 8x out. So now I have x squared plus 3x, 8 minus 5 is 3, equals 10. I need to move my 10 over. Minus 10 out. So now I'm at x squared plus 3x minus 10 equals 0. There's nothing left. So it now looks like number 6, where it's all set equal to 0. I have my x squared. I don't have my parentheses. I can go through and factor. We got to add to 3. We got to multiply to negative 10. And my 2 numbers are going to be 2 and 5. And I believe it's going to be negative 2 and 5. So there we go. So x minus 2, x plus 5 equals 0. Running out of room, so going up here. X minus 2 equals 0. X plus 5 equals 0. Add 2. X equals 2 minus 5. x equals -5, so 2, 0, and -5, 0. So cross this twice, once at 2, 0, once at -5, 0. So this has been using the factoring method to find the x-intercepts, which could also be called solutions or roots or zeros. Hope it helped.